When I was 3 years old, because I joked with my brother, I fed him too much sleeping pills. Later, my younger brother became a semi-cripple, and my parents forced me to take the responsibility of taking care of my brother. I gave him my salary, gave him his car, and gave him his house. Until the end, he asked me to give up my girlfriend because he couldn't marry a wife. Only on this point I don't want to give in. But I didn't expect that my parents forced me to die, tricking me into the countryside and burying me alive. And it was not until I died that I didn't know that there were no sleeping pills at all. But when my mother was pregnant, she listened to rumors and drank a lot of water containing lead and mercury, which led to my brother's disability. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the time when my parents forced me to give up my girlfriend to my brother and didn't want them to die. This time I looked at them coldly. Then go to hell. 01. Hearing my words, my parents froze in place. A moment later, my mother reacted and was so angry that she scolded with his head and face. You unfilial son, if it hadn't been for you, a born bad person, who fed your brother sleeping pills, how could he become what he is now? It's your fault that he can't find a wife. Shouldn't you be responsible? These words are like nightmares. In my last life, I was firmly trapped in them all my life. After rebirth, I heard my mother bring up this matter again and say that I really can't wait to die on the spot. But I can't. I can't risk my life anymore. God has given me a chance to come again. I want to seize it well. This time I want to live for myself. Seeing that I didn't say anything for a long time, my mother thought I was bowing my head as usual and began to say, "You are so careful and so vicious. Now you don't cherish the opportunity to repay. It's better to die directly." Since the last time my girlfriend and I went home to see our parents, my younger brother has been in a fall in out of my girlfriend. Not only did my parents incite me to give my girlfriend to my younger brother, but even saw that I was unwilling, so I moved out the set of words and asked me to find a way to repay my brother. She didn't even think that my girlfriend would like his brother's crippled and obscene appearance. If my mother had said so in the past, I would have given up my things out of guilt, but now it's about my girlfriend, and I haven't let go no matter what. When she saw that I didn't agree, she began to belittle me and asked me to die to make room for my brother. Fortunately, I was really pinched by her in my last life. I stupidly sent out all my house and car, just to make them happy and pay off the fundamental debts. Thinking of this, my heart is even colder. You gave birth to me, a bad seed. It can be seen that you are not a good thing. Why don't you die? The mother's eyes were full of disbelief and she froze on the spot. The younger brother suddenly pushed the wheelchair in front of me with an ugly face. I have never blamed you for so many years. Then you are my own brother. But if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be like this at all now. You owe me for the rest of your life. I almost believed every word he said. But in fact, he always knew that his disability was not my fault, but he kidnapped me and made me responsible. This family makes me sick and want to vomit from beginning to end. I suddenly raised my foot and kicked his wheelchair. Suddenly, my brother fell backwards and turned over. Ah! Family treasure. My brother fell to the ground and howled in pain. When my parents saw this, they rushed up and looked at me angrily. I sneered and said, "Song Jiabao, you are ugly and obscene, and you are still a disabled person. If I were you, you would have died long ago. It is also a waste of air to live. Do you think so?" 02. Seeing his precious son fall to the ground, the father couldn't sit still anymore. He came over and raised his hand to hit me. "Songqing, are you crazy? How dare you kick your brother? Now you should kneel down and apologize to him, and then give up your girlfriend to Jiabao, or you won't recognize me as your father." I grabbed his hand and he was stunned for a moment, only to find that I had long been taller than him. My father looked ugly and wanted to say something else, but I took the lead and said, "Just in time, I've wanted to be an orphan for a long time." "You." My parents blushed and had thick necks because they were angry with me, but because they couldn't beat me, they could only stare at me resentfully. In order to stimulate them, I directly took out my mobile phone and dialed my girlfriend's phone. That end is connected quickly. I went straight to the point. "Xiaxia, my brother said he likes you and wants me to break up with you and give you to him. What do you think? Xiaxia is my favorite woman. When I was at my lowest point, she appeared in front of me to heal me, and even arranged for me to enter her father's company for an internship. There is no doubt that she loves me." Xiaxia quickly replied, "I love you. Even if you break up with me, I won't choose your brother." Song Jiabao suddenly went crazy. He didn't care about the wheelchair and came to grab my mobile phone. "Baby Xiaxia, I know you like me. My brother doesn't mind completing ours." Xiaxia was silent. I guess she should be speechless. However, Song Jiabao thought that Xiaxia had acquiesced, became more confident and chattered endlessly at the other end of the phone. "You pushed me a wheelchair last time. It's gentle and cute. I know you must have me in your heart." After saying that, my brother looked confident. Even my parents were overjoyed, looking like they were bound to get it, and their faces were full of excitement. "She will also help you push the wheelchair. It seems that she really likes you. Our family treasure is so excellent, how can there be girls who don't like it? And I think Xiaxia's family is quite rich." Her father still starts a company, big boss. At that time you will be a president or something. When I heard this, I had to be impressed by their face. If it weren't for me, would Xiaxia push him a wheelchair? Because this determines that Xiaxia likes him. I'm afraid they are all crazy. 03. Song Jiabao was so proud that he completely ignored Xiaxia's words and looked at me with calculating eyes. Although she likes me, I can't give me nothing. Brother, don't you have real estate in your name? The mother waved her big hand and didn't ask my opinion at all. Your house will be used as a wedding gift for the family treasure. In addition, when they get married, you will give a car of 500,000 yuan, which can also be regarded as repaying your brother's debt. Not only do you want me to pay, but you also want me to be grateful to Didi? The abacus beads jumped on my face. However, I have to say that I have been thrifty over the years, and even dates have been stingy in order to save money for my brother. I bought a house and a car to save his pension. Now that I think about it, I'm really a complete fool. If Xiaxia hadn't loved me, she would have dumped me long ago. Voldemort turned out to be myself. Before I could speak, the phone remembered again, and Xiaxia's voice came from the other end. I thought your brother was just physically disabled, but I didn't expect that he still had a problem with his brain. When I pushed him a wheelchair, I just thought that you could free up your arms to hold me. Otherwise I wouldn't even touch him. Besso, my parents are very satisfied with you. When you go back to the company, you can be promoted to general manager. By the way, you haven't proposed to me yet. You can't ignore me when you have a job, do you hear me? The originally depressed mood was completely opened up with Xiaxia's words, and I sneered. When I was suffering because of my parents' pua, Xiaxia appeared in front of me. For me, she is not only my lover, but also my nobleman. She doesn't even care about my stingy behavior. Compared with me, she gives countless times more than me. And when I'm confused, she will also tolerate me and tell me that she doesn't mind. How could I miss such a good girl? Thinking of this, I held back the sourness in my eyes and said to the other end, Xiaxia, we are getting married. Xiaxia seemed to be afraid that I would repent and immediately responded. It's agreed. You can't procrastinate any longer. I have to have another proposal. No problem. I agreed to come down, and then I looked at my family, who was resentful and turned away. I'm afraid I'll spit it out if I stay for one more second. 04. Back home, I sat on the sofa with a question hanging in my mind. Obviously Song Jiabao and I are both the sons of our parents. Why are they so different from us? Aren't I biological? As soon as this idea came to my mind, I suddenly felt like a lump in my heart. Yes, if I'm not my own, then everything makes so. Just when I was about to leave, I didn't do some hair or something to verify, the mobile phone suddenly rang. It turned out that Song Jiabao ran away from home and declared that he would not give his girlfriend to him, and he felt that it was impossible to go home. It has nothing to do with me if he likes to reply or not. Originally, I didn't want to go back, but I suddenly thought that this was also a good opportunity to verify, so I decided to go back. The next day, when I got home and was about to push the door in, I heard the curses of my parents and the voices of other relatives. Now that little wild seed is really bold. He dared to fight with Jiabao yesterday. I just said don't bring that wild seed back at the beginning. Now it's okay. When I grow up, I won't be disciplined. I froze in place. From their curses and words, I gradually pieced together the whole truth of the matter. That it turns out that I really didn't give birth to them, but they kidnapped me. At the beginning, no matter how their parents prepared for pregnancy, their mother's stomach never moved. They became more and more anxious. They went to the doctor in a hurry and found the fortune tortor. The fortune teller pinched his fingers and said that they were not right and could not force them to come. As soon as their parents heard it, they knelt down and begged bitterly. Only then did the fortune teller tell them a solution. That is, if you want a child with a brother, and the two of them rush into each other, they can get pregnant. They believe it, try their best to find it, and finally kidnap the young me. At that time I was 3 years old, the age when they said I would give my brother sleeping pills. Later they wanted to lose me more than once, but once I left, Song Jiabao had all kinds of accidents, so he had no choice but to keep me by his side. No wonder I never have a memory before I was 3 years old. I thought it was because I was too young at that time, but it turned out that I was not in this house at all. Until the end, Song Jiabao's congenital defects. They told a big lie that they had been hiding from me for the sake of my willingness to raise a cripple for a lifetime. A scam trapped my previous life like this. He even let me die in the wilderness. 05. What should I do now? Jiabaoli, my parents forced each other to die and buried me alive with their own hands. 39,103. Hetramte. Mother, no, it should be Wang Xiulian's sad voice. How can I live? The family treasure will definitely be found. If it can't be found, I will let the wild seed bury the family treasure with it. Father Song Baogua's voice was extremely loud. Even if I have died once, I can't help but feel pain in my heart when I hear such words. It turns out that I am not a father who doesn't love my mother. It turns out that I have biological parents. Maybe they have been looking for me for many years, or maybe they have forgotten me long ago, but once I was also a child loved by my parents. Thinking of this, I only feel angry in my heart. Soon footsteps came from the room, and I stepped back a few steps and pretended to have just come up. It was Grandma who opened the door. She didn't like me in the first place and never looked good at me. When she saw me, she immediately raised her eyebrows. "You little beast, you still have the face to come back." I sneered. "I'm a little beast. What are you, an old beast?" You. Grandma was angry with me and covered her chest on the spot and stared at me. Inside, Wang Xiulian and Song Baogua hurried out and pointed at my nose and cursed. "Your brother is missing now. You are not in a hurry at all. That's your grandmother, your elders. How can you talk like that? When you were a child, you dared to give your brother sleeping pills. Sure enough, you were in your arms and didn't want to repay it. Do you still want to force your brother to die? This family's hypocrisy makes me want to vomit." I looked at their faces with a sneer. There was no affection or guilt, only resentment and greed. Fortunately, I died miserably because of these people in my last life. I feel unworthy of my last life and the first half of my life. So I said leisurely, "It's better for him to die outside, or he will come back half dead and alive, and he will still be a cripple." Good, how dare you talk to us like that? Song Baogua greeted other relatives on the spot, and they all came towards me with an unkind face. Obviously, they're going to do it. 06. Little rabbit, I must teach you a good lesson today. They rushed towards me. I can't beat 4 hands with 3 fists. Just then, the siren sounded outside the door, and the police flocked to me. Song Baogua was stunned. "Someone reported that you are kidnapping and trafficking. Come with us." Wang Xiulian's eyes widened at me with disbelief in her eyes. "Little beast. Song Qing, do you dare to call the police?" Then he looked at the police. "Police brother, I'm his mother. He's mentally abnormal. He's joking." Seeing the suspicion of the police, I immediately made a sound and clicked on my mobile phone and handed it over. "This is the recording I just recorded, which can prove that what I said is true." The recording was clicked on and their conversation was clear in it. Fortunately, I had foresight and opened the recording software when I came over. Song Baogua's face suddenly became ugly. Wang Xiulian still wanted to escape and winked madly at me. "Qing, I'm your mother. This is unfilial. How can you send us to prison? Tell the police quickly you're joking." I withdrew my hand and looked at her coldly. "If you have anything to say, you'd better leave it to the police station." The police gave an order. "Take it away." "Don't take it away. It's all fake. Grandma stopped her with a pale face, but was driven away by the police on the charge of obstructing official duties. No matter how hard she struggled, she could not change this fact. I followed him to the police station, not only to see their end, but also to find my biological parents. Not being loved by my parents may be the most regrettable thing in my life. If I have a chance, even if I can meet my biological parents. Xia knew about it and ran out of the company to find me. When we met, he gave me a big hug. "Don't worry, I'm always by your side." My eyes were a little sour. "Do you think I'm cruel to send them to prison? I'm not a virgin, bitch." Xia took my hand and said, "I just think you did a good job, but I feel sorry for you. If you have a wife like this, what can your husband ask for?" 07. 2 months later, my grandmother died in the old house because she was angry and had no one to take care of her. I didn't go, and I didn't even collect her body. I just think it's good to die. As time goes by, I put Xiaxia's wedding on the agenda, and I have no hope for my biological parents. Unexpectedly, the day before my wedding with Xiaxia, the police called me. I found my biological parents. I went to the police station nervously and anxiously. On the way, Xiaxia took my hand until she saw the middle-aged couple in extravagant clothes but with a kind face. For a moment I couldn't speak. On the contrary, Xiaxia beside her said in surprise, "Uncle Chun, are you Xiaxia?" The man couldn't believe it. He looked at the hand we were holding and confirmed it repeatedly. "It's me." Xiaxia pulled me excitedly. "Baby Uncle Chun belongs to my father partner. I've always heard that their child was lost when he was very young, but I really didn't expect it to be you." I stayed where I was until my biological mother held me in her arms crying bitterly. The world is so small. It turns out that the family I miss is so close to me. You have suffered for so many years. My parents told me that after losing me, they have been looking for me for more than 20 years without interruption. They didn't want other children for fear of forgetting me one day. They gave me all their love, even if I didn't stand in front of them for a day. My heart was full of bitterness and confusion. After a long time, I found that my eyes were wet and tears rolled down to the ground. It turns out that I am not a child without the love of my parents. It's just that they have been looking for me all the time. Uncle Chun used to say that he would recognize me as his daughter. Xia smiled, and her eyes were a little red. "That's all right. I will be your daughter-in-law and daughter in the future." After discussion, we all returned to our usual state, but my mother looked at me frequently, as if she was afraid that I would disappear again. Tomorrow's wedding will be held as usual. The difference is that I also have parents. They took out 20% of the company's shares as my wedding gift, which made me feel a little inferior and suddenly became confident. Now I finally don't feel sorry for Xiaxia anymore. We can stand side by side and stand at the same height. 08. On the wedding day, an uninvited guest came. Unexpectedly, it was Song Jiabao who ran away from home. He smiled flatteringly and came over in a wheelchair. Brother, you're getting married. Congratulations. What's the matter? I have no sympathy for this person who knows the truth of the matter but wants me to give my whole life. There was a trace of resentment in his eyes and he came over. I thought about it for a moment. Although I like Xiaxia very much, after all, you are getting married. I can give in and complete you. Brother, don't be angry. Song Jiabao's words almost made me laugh. Why do I have to thank you? I smiled and said, you are such a cripple and your heart is as ugly as your appearance. You don't think that Xiaxia can like you, do you? In an instant, Song Jiabao's face sank. But he immediately changed his smiling face. Brother, I have been jealous of you for so many years. After all, you have such a healthy body. He said to himself, if I were as good as you so. The next moment he suddenly took out a sharp knife from his arms and stabbed me fiercely. So go to hell, go to hell. I subconsciously dodged. The blade scratched my clothes but it didn't hurt me. Song Jiabao pushed the wheelchair and wanted to come over. I kicked him over, snatched the knife and kicked him fiercely several times. It's okay. The moment I saw him I didn't take off my guard, because I knew too well that he was a resentful and cruel person. His parents went to prison, so naturally he couldn't live alone. Are you all right? The people around rushed over and called the police. Song Jiabao was soon taken away. Before leaving, he stared at me with a resentful face. Song Qing, damn it, you should die. After solving them, I only feel happy that the wedding will be held as usual. Under the envious eyes of everyone, I put on a wedding ring for Xiaxia, and we kissed in the church. White pigeons flew by outside the window, and the sun was just right. 09. After marriage I received a call from the police station again. They said that Song Baogua and his wife were sentenced to 20 years in prison, including my parents. They would not be able to live well. However, they are making a fuss in prison to see me. After thinking about it, I agreed. After all, I'm willing to beat the dog into the water. Across the railing, Wang Xiulian and Song Baogua have long lost their enthusiasm and looked at me haggardly. They knelt on the ground and begged me. Since we have raised you for 20 years, take care of Jiabao. That's the only blood we have. I laughed. What you mean is that you are beating and scolding me. As your nanny, do you still have to work hard to take care of Song Jiabao? If you squeeze out my last bit of value, you will kill me, right? The two of them were so angry that they were half dead. Wang Xiulian blushed and stared at me with a thick neck. So what? I also gave you a bite of rice. Listening to their words, I just want to laugh. They can't refute me at all. When I graduated from primary school, they had to arrange for me to work. If I hadn't earned my own tuition, I might have died long ago. What's more, in my last life, they led me to the wilderness and buried me alive. But if they used to be a little good to me, I wouldn't be like I am now. By the way, I told them with a smile, I forgot to tell you that now Song Jiabao can eat 3 meals a day, and he doesn't have to worry about starving to death. Really? Wang Xiulian's eyes lit up. Of course it's true. After all, he was sentenced to 3 years for intentional injury. He will definitely starve to death in at least 3 years, but not necessarily in the future. What? Song Baogua and his wife were angry. They grabbed the railing and questioned me. What's wrong with your family treasure? You white-eyed wolf, we should have strangled you to death. But they can't help me. I smiled wantonly. In the future you can enjoy life in prison. After saying that, I turned around and left, let them curse behind me and did not look back. The sun was just right outside. I walked out of the prison and Xiaxia waved to me. Baby, here. I responded with a smile. Here we come.